What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you stopping by for the first time, do me a real quick favor. See that red subscribe button down below? Go ahead and push that and show your support for the channel. Those of you stopping by that have been here before, welcome back to TLTG Reviews, my friends. Glad you came to see me. So, one that I've been debating on doing for quite a while, seems to be a pretty big topic in the community. Everybody seems to love or hate Invictus and love or hate the fact that so many fragrances smell like it. So I figured, why not? Let's rank the 10 of the fragrances I have in my collection that give off the Invictus vibe, that bubblegum smell. Whether it be Invictus or Invictus Aqua. Stay tuned. So jumping right off into it, here at number 10 is one that, in the opening, it's going to be very reminiscent. I have it on my hand, actually. Very underrated, recently discontinued fragrance from Yves Saint Laurent. One of my favorites from the line, to be completely honest with you. It gets the generic tag, but I sure like it. It's La Nuit de l'Homme, Eau Electrique. You're going to get the Invictus bubblegum vibe in the opening, with a little bit more mint to it than Invictus is known, because Invictus doesn't have any mint. But the mint's faint in this one, and you definitely get a bubblegummy opening for sure. Now, as it starts to dry down, the mint and the vanilla come out a bit more. You don't really, because the geranium's really providing that minty quality with this one. And it's gonna, as it dries down, the Invictus thought in your mind is gonna go away. But in the opening, you definitely getting that bubblegum vibe, and you definitely think Invictus whenever you smell La Nuit de l'Homme Eau Electrique. And I gotta say, if you can find them for a decent price, scoop it up. You may just like it because they're going to get scarce. Not so much scarce as the price will go up over time because it is discontinued. And that's La Nuit de l'Homme Eau Electrique. Moving into number 9, another one. It's got that bubblegum Invictus opening, but once again, the dry down starts to separate it. None of these are outright clones of Invictus or Invictus Aqua, but they definitely give you that thought when you first smell them. And this one's no different in the opening. This is from Hugo Boss. It's Hugo. Just different. Very bubblegum opening, but this one has a crisp apple that really stands out. This is one that's in my recent top 10 list for underrated spring fragrances, because this is an underrated spring fragrance that nobody really talks about. And you're going to think Invictus when you initially smell it. If you look on Fragrantica, that's the thing that it's rated as smelling like the most, is Invictus, because in the opening it sure does. But as a few minutes start to pass, the apple becomes more and more prominent, and it really separates itself and becomes what it is. And it's just different. Hugo Boss. Moving into number 8, this is one that is more Invictus Aqua than Invictus. It's got a bit more shower gel going for it. But this definitely gives you think Invictus Aqua immediately when you smell it. You've heard me talk about this one many times on the channel. It is one of my favorite fragrances. It's from Davidoff. It's Cool Water Wave. This is undoubtedly the Invictus Aqua vibe. Doesn't smell like an outright clone. Oh, but it's definitely the Invictus Aqua of Davidoff's Cool Water line. For sure. I love this one. You can get a big 4.2 ounce like this for 20 bucks. It's cheap. You can spray it super heavy. Keep it with you because it's only like a 5-hour fragrance. I did do a full review on this one last summer. This is a great fragrance in my opinion, one that I absolutely love, and you are definitely getting the Invictus Aqua vibe with Cool Water Wave for sure. Moving into number 7, 2019 release. That's not really the popular kid at school, I'll tell you that. I'm sure this one isn't going to make it for long because a lot of people seem to give it some hate, but it's got its fair share of fans, I find. Every time I've talked about it, there's a few people that come out in the comments to talk about how much they enjoy it, and I'm one of the people that definitely enjoy this. It's from Viktor and Rolf, SPICEBOMB, Night Vision. The way I like to describe this one is like a spicy Invictus. This and a few others on the list. They open bubblegum, definitely Invictus. You smell Invictus in the opening, and then they have some spices in it that transition dry down. It becomes its own thing, and the Invictus vibe goes away. But this is most certainly a good way to describe it, is a spicy Invictus, because like I said, through and through in the opening, you spray this one, your scent memory, your olfactory immediately goes to Invictus if you've smelled Invictus before. Underrated fragrance in my opinion, decent performer. It's a spicy Invictus. is SPICEBOMB Night Vision. Moving into number 6. Number 6 is in the same vein as number 7. It's AZZARO Wanted, the original. Same thing. It's a spicy Invictus. It's kind of redundant having SPICEBOMB Night Vision and AZZARO Wanted, to be completely honest with you. This one's a little bit cheaper and a little tiny bit sweeter in the opening than SPICEBOMB Night Vision, but it's definitely Invictus vibe, bubblegum opening, dries into some spices, cinnamon, stuff like that, pimento, really separated. It kind of does its own thing at that point. But in the opening, you're 100% thinking Invictus when you smell AZZARO Wanted. And it's a very good fragrance. Very popular. A lot of people enjoy this one, and its main flanker, Wanted by Night, as well, which will still give you a little bit of the Invictus vibe in the opening, but it's much more spicy than this one. And it's definitely, the name's fitting, it's much more of a nighttime vibe. But this is pretty much their answer to Invictus and putting their own spin on that DNA, and that's from AZZARO. It's the original Wanted. Moving into number 5. Number 5, I just recently did a full review on this one. I'll put that right there if you want to check it out. About 2 days ago, I believe, or yesterday actually, I did the review on this one. And the 3 in a row, they all smell very similar. They all give you that same opening with a spicy dry down. And this is the third one of those 3. Davidoff Run Wild. Yep, you had to know if SPICEBOMB Night Vision and Wanted were in here. The cheaper alternative to those 2 fragrances was going to be in here as well. This was actually my scent of the day yesterday. My wife actually dubbed that it was a little bit too strong for her, which is kind of surprising because I have a lot of fragrances that are a lot stronger than this one. I think it's because the cinnamon's so prominent in this one. When she got close to me, she just got pounded in the nose with cinnamon, because that's what this one's pretty heavy on, cinnamon. But in the opening, I smell it floating in the air. It's all bubblegum Invictus. It really is. It takes a little while for that to wear off, and the cinnamon really becomes prominent after about 20 or so minutes, and it's cinnamon all throughout at that point. But in the opening, you're absolutely going to think Invictus. This is another one, olfactory, goes straight to Invictus. And at the number 5 spot, it's Davidoff Run Wild. Number 4 spot is another 2019 release that kind of does its own thing. It's kind of like Invictus with Ambroxan and a bit more amber. Not the smell of Invictus Legend, because Invictus Legend's heavy on the amber, but that's also heavy on the bay leaf. This doesn't have any bay leaf. But in the opening, it's all kinds of bubblegum for Davidoff Cool Water Intense. You'll notice that's 3 Davidoff fragrances on this list. Davidoff is really piggybacking off of that bubblegum vibe. Wave being their Invictus Aqua. This and Run Wild smelling like Invictus in the opening. But this definitely has its own take on it, like I said, because of that Ambroxan. Even though Ambroxan is not listed in the notes, you can tell there's no doubt a bunch of Ambroxan in this one, and it makes it a powerhouse. This thing screams, it's loud, and it's long, and it's cheap. 30 bucks, you can get this 125 ml, and it's one of the better releases of 2019. Davidoff has been doing pretty well with some of these cool water flankers lately. A lot better than they used to. And this one is flat out better than the original in my opinion. Doesn't smell like the original, but it definitely gives you that bubblegum vibe. The coconut, the amber, the Ambroxan really separates it after that first 20 or 30 minutes of bubblegum. But like I said, you're undoubtedly going to get the Invictus vibe when you first smell Cool Water Intense from Davidoff. Moving into number 3, this is a cheapie. They're out at the rack stores right now. I went to Marshall's last week and a half ago, something like that, when I did my little fragrance haul, and I saw some bottles of it. They're out again, and they're super cheap, and this is a fantastic alternative to Invictus Aqua at a very cheap price. It's from Hollister. It's Wave 2. Yes, Wave 2. I do have Wave, the original as well. That's going to give you an Invictus 2016, Invictus Aqua 2016 vibe, whereas this gives you the 2018 vibe more. Personally, I think this one smells a little more well-rounded. That's why this one's in the list. I didn't want to put both of them in the list because they both are a version of Invictus Aqua, basically. But this one's better, and you can get this one so cheap. This is a 50 ml. You can get it in that $15 range, and it's worth every penny, especially with the heat starting to kick up. I know I'm wearing a hoodie right now saying that because we had a cool front roll through, and it's high 50s all day, which warranted the hoodie. But as we start to, I just want to smell it some more. As we start to warm up, this is such a good cheapie if you're looking for an alternative to Invictus Aqua, something that's going to give you that Invictus Aqua vibe, but not be a 100% copy. Do not overlook Hollister Wave 2. If you see it at the rack stores, it's a cheapie stud that smells like Invictus Aqua. Moving into number 2, one of my favorite fragrances. This 1 ounce bottle that I have starting to get low. One of these future orders here in the coming months is going to have a either 100 ml or 200 ml bottle coming. Another cheapie. Going to remind you of Invictus Aqua 2016. It's not an outright copy, but it's close. This is a little more fizzy effervescent. This is from Mont Blanc. This is Legend Spirit. This is a favorite among a lot of people. This is a good one to smell. Oh, Jesus Christ. High compliment factor for sure. Decent performance, and the smell on this one is great. Some would argue this smells better than Invictus Aqua, and you can get it for such a good price. You can get 100 ml in that $30, sub $30 range. Testers, all that high 20s. It performs decent. People love the way you smell. It's got a high compliment factor from women, people around you in general, and you're going to love the way you smell. But you're absolutely going to think 2016 Invictus Aqua when you smell Mont Blanc Legend Spirit. And then number 1, the main fragrance that's going to give you the Invictus vibe. Some people say Invictus, some people say Invictus Aqua. I say, the way I like to describe this one to people is imagine the original Invictus, but matured a little bit, not as playfully sweet. Cambridge Night, English Laundry. This is my original bottle. I did recently get a backup bottle, and I went ahead and wore that one after I saw several people, that's part of this week's rotation, several people tell me check your bottle. I heard newer batches don't have the performance, and you know what? They do. That makes me cherish my older bottle more, because this one's a monster. This is 8 to 9 hours. This has a heavy projection. That newer bottle, 3-4 hours, and it's gone. I kept having to refresh. So I wanted to discuss this with my older bottle. If you can find older bottles, that's the way to go. Oh, it smells so good. The difference in this versus the note breakdown in the original Invictus is it adds black currant and lily. That black currant adds a maturity to it. It tones down the sweetness a bit. This, some would argue, smells better than Invictus. And I kind of, I love Invictus, but I love this too. It's kind of 1A and 1B. Gun to my head, I don't know, I might have to take the bullet because it's hard to decide between the two because it's so good. It's not an exact copy because there are a few notes changing it a bit, change the composition, and I think it changes it for the better. This is for somebody that got Invictus when it first came out. Maybe you were in your mid-20s, things changed, you got into your 30s, matured a little bit more, but you still kind of like that scent DNA. You don't want something as sweet. This might be the fragrance for you. Cambridge Night from English Laundry is the main one to be looking out for if you're looking for something with the Invictus vibe, and it's my favorite that's not Invictus. So that's 10 I figured we could cover. I do have more fragrances besides these that have either the Invictus Aqua or Invictus vibe. Obviously I have 4 of the Invictus line as well, but you can't put that in here because this is about fragrances that smell like those. But until next time, guys, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Do appreciate all the feedback. I love hearing from you guys. How many of you have a lot of these? This isn't one of those, let me know if you agree with me down below, because if you've smelled these, I know you agree with me because they smell as such. That's just what it is. There's some good fragrances. Some of them can be kind of redundant. Some kind of stand on their own. Some are close to being clones. Some just for a couple of minutes give you that smell. But I thought it'd be a pretty good video discussion, so here we are. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of these and you give them a spray now, I'm very confident that you'll thank me later, especially if you like Invictus or Invictus Aqua. Have a good one, guys.